Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fourmation Podcast. It's episode number 22 today, and it's a little bit of a different version to what you would normally see because we had a good suggestion from a viewer on last week's show, episode 21, of course, and we thought, let's run with it, let's give it a go because we think it's something which everyone is kind of interested in, everyone has an opinion on, so that is going to dominate what we do this week. So the viewer, he commented, as I said, his name is Connor Brooks, and the comment was as follows. It said, Devon Cash fan here, would like to see you talk about your potential England squad for the Euros. That's what he said. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So the whole episode is going to be dedicated to that discussion. It just goes to show if you are a keen watcher, you watch every week and you've got an idea, if you drop us it into the comment section, we will look at it and we will certainly try to accommodate it. But Devon, you've been mentioned there in the comment. How pleased were you to see this suggestion pop up?
Well, obviously, you've got a lot of time for fans in the podcast. I mean, numerous times he's asked me for a photo when we've been out in Leadmill, and you know, it's just an honour to be able to take this in. Obviously, one of the 82 subscribers, which we're starting to boost up, which is good. But yeah, I think it's a very good suggestion and very topical at the minute, especially after one virtuoso performance in midfield on Sunday that we might get onto.
Leadmill, I should say, being a nightclub in Sheffield for anyone not aware. Devon's homeland, of course. But yeah, we have all kind of created a team ourselves. Sam, how difficult was it when you were going through this last night to pick your 11? And, you know, because there's a few good options there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, we decided on a formation before we started, which we'll get into a bit later, but it definitely is difficult. There's a lot of options that maybe I didn't consider when I was first thinking about this. So it was difficult, but I think I'm confident that the 11 that I've picked could be successful at the Euros.
Harry, how likely do you think we are to agree on the most part? Do you think there's going to be a lot of debate here, or do you think most of the positions will be fairly similar?
I think it's a tough one, really. I think this time last year, I think the teams would quite obviously be a lot different. Even at the end of last season, I think the team choice would be a lot different in multiple different positions. But looking at the form of the players in the team, I think the only thing that will change up who's going to play is if we want a more attacking system or a more defensive one. So for the most part, I think 7 or 8 players will be the same. But the ones that aren't, there's going to be some serious debate over.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are some debates to come over the next hour or so. So let's get straight into it. As we've kind of mentioned there, our aim is to come up with a starting 11 between us. We thought we could have done a 23-man squad, but that would take too much time, and it's kind of too difficult to work out how many of each position to put in. So we will discuss players around the 11, but we're aiming to conclude this episode with an 11 between us, the Fourmation 11. I should say we haven't discussed our individual thoughts at all, so this will all be raw and it'll be our raw reactions. And Sam mentioned there, the only thing that we have agreed on as a quartet is the formation that we're going to play. We thought if we choose our own formations and 2 of us have 4 at the back and 2 of us have 5 at the back, that's only going to cause a bit of a mess.
More importantly, it's in the name of the podcast. Just saying.
That's a very good point.
Formation.
We know that in the last major tournament, 2018 World Cup, Southgate went with a back 5, but we have chosen to go with a back 4. If you're watching, Gareth, then watch till the end, and maybe you'll agree with what we're going with. But yeah, we're going with a kind of 4-3-3. Could be a 4-2-3-1 as well, depending on how you look at it, but it'll make sense as we go on. But as I said, let's jump straight into it. It makes sense to start with the goalkeeper, and you have to say the number 1 shirt is very much up for grabs. I would say over the last few friendlies and qualifying matches, there's been a few keepers given the go in goal. So let's find out, who do we want to see between the sticks? And I'll start with Devon. Who have you gone for here?
Obviously going for Deportivo and the five-a-side goalkeeper first. I like that thinking. I think the biggest debate over our suggestions are going to be based on whether Southgate goes safe, like he likes to, or goes for a team that we think brings a bit more excitement and probably deserves to be in there. So for that reason, I think England tend to face a lot of shots at times. I think Pickford's got a lot of mistakes in him. So I'm going for somebody that makes an average 4 saves per game in a poor side that concedes at least 14 per game. Nick Pope.
Nick Pope. Sorry, I thought you were going to continue there. You've gone for Nick Pope.
No, just...
Harry, do you agree? Have you also sided with Nick Pope or somebody else?
Yeah, I've got to say I was a Pickford backer last season. I tried to stay with him, but for me, Nick Pope is the obvious option. 7 clean sheets this season compared to Pickford's 3, and Pope's made more saves. So it's not just that he's in a side that concedes more shots. Like Devon said, he actually saves more shots. And if I was looking at last season, maybe I'd look at Henderson, but only 3 appearances this season. I think because he's had the second choice option, he's sort of thrown himself out of the number one window, and maybe even out of the squad. That's not the conversation for today. But yeah, for me, I'm with Devon. Pope's my number one.
I have to say, I've also gone with Nick Pope. I think kind of that performance at Anfield when Burnley stopped that unbeaten record just kind of proves his ability to step up against the best teams. And I know Liverpool have been on a clear blip, but he still had an excellent night that night. Sam, is it a full house when it comes to the goalkeeper?
Yes, I mean it would have been a more difficult decision a year ago with how Henderson's season went last year with Sheffield United, but the fact that he's gone back to United and not played enough, he's not the number one choice. And if you're going to be England's number one, you've got to be the top man at your club, and he's not at the moment. So Nick Pope with the season that he's had again, very consistent, like Devon said, in a team that concede a lot of shots. So he's always active every game. But the one thing going against Pope maybe is the thing that Southgate likes in Pickford, why he picks him a lot, is his passing, how comfortable he is on the ball. Yes, he's error prone, but he's got 62% pass success rate compared to Pope's 46. So I think if Pope really wants to nail down that position, he needs to sort of work on his on the ball stuff, because that is a big part of being a modern goalkeeper.
Just to sort of throw it out there, do you think part of that is the way that Burnley play compared to Everton? Do you think that's what would sort of hinder Pope's chances, that if he played in a more ball-orientated side, that number would probably, I wouldn't say shoot up, but it would certainly go up, rather than, because they're more of, this isn't all they play, but because a lot of it is, right, hoof it, let's get it to Woods and Barnes, that number will depreciate quite a lot because a lot of his are long balls. So do you think if he played in a sort of Everton side, that number would go up, and then he'd probably be higher in the ranking, sort of in Southgate side anyway?
That's a good point, to be fair. They do, obviously, a lot of Burnley's players focused on being quite route one, quite direct, and being the goalkeeper is a part of that, playing those long balls. But if we see him a couple more times in an England shirt, maybe see how he fits into the system. We'll see how good he really is on the ball as a goalkeeper.
I think the onus should be, though, like we're probably going to get into how exciting we are going forward. I think the onus should be, if we had someone like Nick Pope saving him, just to drill the ball into the defensive midfield role, just for him to spin and get it to them attacking players, that creative front line as quick as possible. And maybe Nick Pope, maybe not a more direct route, but if we did bring, I'm going to just say Harry Kane into the equation, if he's there, someone to knock it down for a Maddison or a Grealish, maybe Pope's route one more mindedness will help us drive further forward quickly.
Yeah, I think it's interesting there. We've all gone with Pope, so Pope will be the keeper that we go with. You all mentioned how when Henderson was playing regular games, you probably would have considered him even more. There have been reports at Man United that Henderson could take that number 1 shirt for the rest of the season if he proves himself. You know, he kept a clean sheet against West Ham last night. He wasn't particularly well challenged in that cup game. But Harry, if he was to start to get that run in the team and Man United went on a good run for the rest of the season, how much do you think that would boost his chances?
I think it'd certainly be tough because even then he's only got half a season. But I'm not saying there is any top 6 bias, and I don't necessarily think there are. It's just that you get more eyes on you when you're in the top 6. And I think if he does keep clean sheets in that sense, and if he does get 5, 6, 7, 8 near the end of the season, he'll definitely be in a shoo-in for the squads. But I'm not sure about him being the number 1 just because he hasn't. I don't think he's had enough minutes this season. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to sort of push his way from all the way down at thirds, maybe even 4th choice now, all the way through to number 1, especially with limited international fixtures now before the Euros.
Yeah, it would appear that there's kind of 3 keepers there that we're expecting to be in the frame, so it would be a surprise to see anyone else. I thought Harry might maybe snuck an Alex McCarthy in there.
Maybe Carl Darlow. I mean, he's filled in for Dubravka really well. He's probably taken the number 1 spot at Newcastle now. And again, like Nick Pope, he plays in a team that are very defensively orientated, and he's always busy every game. So he has been pretty good. So maybe he's a shout to go into the squad. Probably not number 1, but maybe a 3rd choice.
Yeah, I like that as a wild card shout. Devon, do you agree?
I think probably Darlow. I remember last season when we were talking about our teams of the season, we mentioned how good Dubravka was, and they've not missed him at all due to how Darlow's played. I think maybe a case for Sam Johnston. In a very poor West Brom side, he's actually flourished, facing a lot of shots like Nick Pope, but probably just a step below the rest of him. I think in the future, I'd love us to see, as looking forward, someone like Freddie Woodman to come in and be that 3rd choice goalkeeper, because he knows he's not going to play, but he's played a lot for the under-21s, and obviously I think he's got the most clean sheets in the Championship. So for his development, I'd like someone to take him on board and be that 3rd choice, and have Pope and Pickford have that arm around him for the future. But for now, probably Darlow would deserve that 3rd choice.
Yeah, there's a few up-and-coming keepers, as we've mentioned there, but we have decided there Nick Pope is our man. He's our number 1, so into the team he goes. On then to the back line, and we're going to start with the position where England fans tend to say that England are overloaded, and it's pretty hard to argue with that, really. It is right back. So what are we thinking out of the plethora of options that we've got? Harry, I'll go to you first on this one.
It's probably a boring choice, but I'd still go with Trent Alexander-Arnold. I know he's had a difficult season this year, but if England do play with the back 4, I think he's a fantastic cross of the ball from deep. When he pushes a bit forward, sort of in that 5-back formation, when he's right next to the box, I'm not a big fan, but you've got that. You've got his set-piece ability from free kicks and corners as well. And for me, 1 goal, 3 assists this season isn't the same level, but it's still pretty decent. It's still pretty decent, so I'd go with him.
If you're watching this on YouTube, then you might have seen, I think Devon gave a little shake of his head when Harry mentioned Trent, and there was a little grimace there too. I saw it, Devon. So do you disagree?
Yes, I think all round, and especially this season, I think Reece James would be a better option for us. I think he makes more tackles, and especially in the back 4 that we're going for. I think he's probably more suited to the right back role, despite the crosses from deep. But with the England, he's going to see a lot of the ball, and I think James, with his near 90% pass succession rate, and in an area where you can lose the ball quite a lot, especially with his, he makes 1.4 key passes, which is the same as Trent. I just think defensively minded, because there's going to be a lot of games where we are good going forward, but there's going to be a lot of games where we'll succumb to pressure, and I think Reece James would suit that better than Trent.
Sam, where do you stand on this one?
This is a tough one. I think this is one that that could change for me. Like when we actually get to picking the squad, I could have a different opinion on it. But I'm actually going to agree with Devon. I think Reece James has shown more for me this season, especially from a defensive standpoint. I think that's where Trent's game is lacking. Although I can't deny his quality going forward. I think Reece James is a great young defender, and he actually has a better cross accuracy than Trent this season. He has 24% compared to 18%. I mean, that could be down to obviously Liverpool's struggles this year as well. A lot of their game has been orientated around, getting the ball out to Trent and crossing it in, which has not been the most successful way of playing. But I've liked what I've seen from Reece James, and I think he deserves a spot at the moment. But like I said, this could change for me by the end of the season. There's a lot of competition.
I'm sorry to have to tell you that I'm about to make this very difficult. Because
Max Aarons is in the Championship, George. We're not having Max Aarons in.
I actually haven't got Max Aarons written down. I'm in agreement with Harry on this one. I think you can't deny it hasn't been Trent's best season, but it hasn't been Liverpool's best season. And I think that recent game against Spurs, when he had a lot of success down that right flank, he scored that goal and he powered it in, got himself into the box. I think if he can start to produce that more consistently, Sam, you obviously mentioned there it could change. If Liverpool can start to turn themselves around, I think it's hard to imagine anyone else having that spot. I think Jamie Carragher's mentioned this on Monday Night Football, that defensively maybe isn't fantastic, but we should be thinking that in the majority of our games with the team that we've got, we should be trying to play on the front foot. So I think for that reason, Trent should be in there. Before we kind of, I don't know how we're going to come to an agreement on this, but before we do that, the other options we've got, we haven't yet mentioned Kyle Walker or Kieran Trippier, who were both in the 2018 squad and played a vital role. Were any of you tempted to go for him?
I had Wan-Bissaka written down as well. I think he's been, although the attacking side of his game leaves much to be desired, he's a great defender, probably the best defender out of the right backs that we've got. 66 tackles, 37 interceptions for United this season. Part of those 8 clean sheets that they've got as well. He's a brilliant defender, but I probably agree with you, George. I would like to see England play positively in these games, go and try and be the dominant team in all the games. So I could be tempted with Alexander-Arnold, to be honest. Like I say, my opinions on it could change, and like I already said, I can't deny his quality going forward and from set pieces as well.
We also haven't mentioned James Justin, and I saw a couple of suggestions of Matty Cash on Twitter as well, because Villa have obviously had a very good year and he's settled in well. Just on Justin, are we maybe going to be mentioning him for the left back spot where he's been playing for Leicester? I don't know. Maybe that's what people have got written down. But we do need to come to a decision on which right back we're going for. I'm trying to work out. We probably should have found a way to work out how we're going to do it.
I'm apologies to Devon, but I'm happy to go with Trent. Not.
I mean, it's not like we're looking at this side and going, "Oh God, there's such a decrease in quality" as we talk about the options. It's not like us saying, "Well, his next best option is Glenn Johnson," where we've got a lot of quality there. And even though I'm a big fan of Reece James, I'm happy to concede to Trent because
I think he needs to be more consistent. But
yeah, I think maybe the reason why Trent's probably not been as consistent this season is because he's not had the protection of Virgil van Dijk there next to Gomez and that. But like normally you'd see either Henderson drop in, but because Henderson's been a centre half, he's not been able to drop in. So probably Trent's thinking, hang on, I've got to be a bit more conservative here because if he goes forward and Liverpool hit on the break, as they did against City a few times, I think Trent probably given that more freedom. And if Southgate does go with the three at the back, I think he probably might be suited more to a right wing back role than James, even though James has played quite a bit there. So I'm happy to concede that to you too.
There we go. That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, to be honest.
Might not be that easy every time, but
but we need to find out now that Devon mentioned Virgil van Dijk offering Trent protection. We need to find out who in this England team is going to be there to offer him some protection. So I want to know what your favoured centre-back pairing is, and I'll start with Sam Allen. What are you saying, Sam?
There's one English centre-back that's really stood out to everyone this season, I think, with the introduction of certain Ruben Diaz to the Manchester City side, and that's John Stones. He's only played 13 league games this year, but 10 clean sheets, which is just brilliant. He's revived his career at Manchester City, and I think he probably gets into there as one of the top two centre backs for England now. Just how good he is as an on the ball defender as well, in a system that Gareth Southgate likes to play. He likes to see his defenders play with the ball. So I think he would be my number one choice, and then I'd probably go with the Manchester United's ever-present skipper Harry Maguire. I think just the amount of games that he's played for United and consistently performing. He's made mistakes in a couple of games, but like I said, 8 clean sheets for United this season, 132 recoveries, 133 duels won. He's a dominant defender when he's at his best. I think that's what we need.
Rather than a head shakes this time, it was a lot of head nodding from Devon, as Sam was explaining that. So are you agreeing with that pairing, Dev?
Yeah, I am. The two people that, when I first did my team, the two that Sam's mentioned, Stones and Maguire, were the first two that I put in the team. And though I've tinkered with it a lot, them two have not been changed at all. I think you look who's been the best centre-back pairing that we've had for the 4 years. And even though we've played with a back three, Stones and Maguire have been partnered by Mings or Walker in that back three. And I think that partnership between them is something you don't mess around with. And it's happened to Liverpool this year with your centre-back partnership. You want to keep that consistent for the whole season. And I think Maguire's got, even though you mentioned his mistakes, he's got used to being a left-sided centre-half this season with Man United, and he's learned a lot from bringing out the ball last season and getting caught out, and this season he's been a bit more positionally better. So I think that back two is just untouchable unless we go to a back three, and even if we do go back to a back three, them two are going to be the stonewalls in there.
Harry, what about you? Have you got any maybe differentials there, or have you got the same pairing?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a boring two, and it's the same two. It's like Devon said, they're the first two that came to mind. I don't think any other two centre backs, especially with Joe Gomez injured, comes close. Like Sam said, 18 clean sheets between them, 10 for Stones, 8 for Maguire. They play how Gareth Southgate wants to play. They're natural at how Gareth Southgate wants to play. So yeah, that's the back two for me as well.
Well, that is remarkable that we've all got the same pairing. Because I have also got Stones and Maguire, and I think Devon, you touched on it there. I think a lot is maybe mentioned when it comes to Tyrone Mings being picked. The fact that he is a left-footed player, and people say we've got a lack of them, but I think Maguire kind of just about fits that bill, given he plays there all year round, is comfortable enough on that left foot. So I think that gives us enough balance there. We obviously mentioned Gomez there. Do you think if he was to maybe recover quicker than expected from his injury and got a run in the Liverpool team, he's clearly going to be in Gareth Southgate's thoughts, right? But do you just not see him sneaking his way in?
I think he'll be in the squad if it gets to that point where he does come back before the end of the season. But if not, then he can't be in the starting 11. I actually wrote down Eric Dyer as well. He's now playing at centre back for Spurs. Although I don't see him as a starting 11 caliber, and maybe he could be in the squad for his versatility. But that was just another option that I wrote down as well.
I do think I just can't see Joe Gomez being a starting centre half unless he's next to someone like Virgil van Dijk. I think Van Dijk just puts that extra 20% into him. When I've seen him on his own, he just looks lost. And I think, like we've said, I think the consistency of John Stones and Ruben Diaz and Harry Maguire and John Stones in an England setup have brought the best out of both of them. And I do think the only other option that I thought of is there might be a case for Lewis Dunk, but could you really see him knocking Stones or Maguire out of that back two? No. And the only case, I don't think, if we had another left-sided centre-half, I don't think Mings would be in this conversation either. Even though he has been quite good this season, I just don't think he's really suited for it.
Well, yeah, as we've mentioned there, we're all in agreement on our starting team. But I think Southgate has got a selection issue when it comes to who goes as backup. And we've mentioned a few of them, but ones that we haven't mentioned, Rob Holding, James Tarkowski, Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey of Everton, who've had a good season. Connor Cody. I saw Spencer Owen mention Craig Dawson last night. So I thought I'd add that one in. But yeah, how many he takes is obviously up to him, but it's going to be a difficult decision. Maybe injuries towards the end will help him, but it remains to be seen. But we have settled on our back three so far, but there's still one more to come in the form of a left back. And I'm going to go to Harry on this one. We're maybe a bit shorter of options than we are at right back in this one, Harry. But who have you said for this one?
For me, it was a debate between two. I, to be honest with you, I completely forgot that James Justin was a footballer when I looked at this, but I'd still go for one of these two anyway. I first looked at Shaw and I was like, 4 assists, not too bad. He's playing a lot for Manchester United, doing very successful this season. And I looked at Chilwell, 2 goals, 4 assists, 5 clean sheets. I thought he was more injured than he was, but he's only played 1 or 2 less than Luke Shaw, so I guess he's not had the injuries that I thought he did. So I think Ben Chilwell's the man for me at left back.
Okay, Devon, have you gone with Chilwell or somebody else?
I think there's a big factor of what's going to happen to the end of the season. I think Luke Shaw's coming to form at the right time. He's really impressing, and from left back, he's probably more astute. I think Chilwell from a left wing back would be the better option there. But we've seen in the early stages, at least, that Tuchel prefers Marcos Alonso. So could we see Chilwell suffer in terms of game time? I think there's a shout for Saka, but again, I think he's probably suited if we did do the 3-4-3, him being on that left side option. But I still think his best games for Arsenal have come on the right. So looking at it, I think Luke Shaw would be the better option as a left back.
And Sam, what have you gone for?
Yeah, I think there's more options at left back than you think, considering there's been a lot of left backs that have had good seasons, like Cresswell, Chilwell, Shaw, players like Matt Targett even at Villa. But I'm going to agree with Devon again. I'm going to go with Luke Shaw. I think he's been brilliant this year. He's finally getting a consistent run in this Manchester United team. He's got a manager in Ole who believes in him a lot more than Mourinho certainly did, and we're seeing why he does. I mean, that performance at Anfield in particular sticks out for me. Great on both ends of the pitch. You can do it on both ends of the pitch, which is what you need from a modern fullback. So that's why I'm going with Shaw.
And I think it probably will be Shaw that we go with. I haven't written Shaw down as my selection, but I think, as you say, he has started to live up to that 30 million price tag that United paid for him all those years ago. Not that long ago, but what was it, 4 or 5 years? But I was close to going with James Justin. I have to say, every time I watch Leicester, he seems to stand out, and he also stands out in terms of FPL bonus points, giving me a bit of a headache. But I would actually be very tempted, and it pains me to say this, given he used to play for Ipswich, I would be tempted to go with Aaron Cresswell, not
Cresswell.
All right, Roy Hodgson.
Because I think in a season where West Ham have really flourished, he just really looks the part for them, kind of at both ends of the pitch. We've maybe touched on the set piece delivery. There aren't many obvious candidates in terms of forward players to take them. Obviously, Trent can, but we know that Cresswell can too. And we've seen how good West Ham have been from set pieces. Souček, of course, has profited from them, but he can't score if the delivery isn't right. And Cresswell has been getting those right. They've kept 8 clean sheets in 23 league games so far. So 1 in 3, or just over 1 in 3. And I think the fact that he's 31, he's pretty mature. He hasn't played many times for England. I think he's got 3 caps, but I would be definitely taking him on the plane at this moment. Well, not really on the plane because most of the games are in England, aren't they?
On the bus.
On the bus.
He's on stage.
Yeah, in an Uber or whatever.
In an Uber.
He's on the Uber.
But I think Harry, you went with Chilwell, but you said that Luke Shaw was in your thoughts, and then Devon and Sam were pretty clear on Shaw as their selection. So are we happy to go with
100%? Yeah, that's good with me. Yeah.
There's a case for Trippier. Technically, we saw him starting to come into that left back role under Southgate, but
he does play there a lot, but he's not a natural left back, is he?
I do have a slight disappointment that Luke Shaw's he didn't tweet for 2 years, and then 2 years after not tweeting, he then tweeted about a 9-0 after not talking about football whatsoever. So there's a slight sour patch there, but I think Luke Shaw's a very good defensive fullback, and I'm glad to see he's prospering under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Through gritted teeth, you're happy to agree, Harry. Okay, that was fairly easy again, really. But I think as we move on now, that there might be a bit more debate.
It's tough now.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of discussion on TV or on Twitter, wherever you receive your news, on the number of creative options that Gareth Southgate has, and we're going into our midfield 3 now. So depending on how you play it, there's going to be a few of these creative options in your thinking. So I'll go round to each of you. Let's hear your midfield 3, and we will try to decide somehow. I'll start with Devon on this one.
Looking at the options, I think probably the one that might get the heads up from his performances over the last couple of seasons is mature in his performances. Makes 1.9 tackles per game from CDM. It's got to be Rice, baby, hasn't it? Declan Rice is my option, I think.
You're saying Rice. Have we all gone, just before we move on, have we all gone for kind of one defensive-minded player and 2 in front?
I'm still deciding as I look at my paper. I'm still deciding.
Are you wanting the 3 from me? Is that what you meant?
I'm happy to just discuss it. If we've got a defensive-minded, I don't know.
I've got a defensive-minded midfielder, but I was thinking more 2 central midfielders.
Sam wants to attack.
Central attacking midfielder.
Okay.
I would kind of agree with Sam on that. But
if you want to know my thinking, I've got a defensive midfielder that'll sit there, and then I've got a more of an 8 and a 10, like traditional centre attacking midfielder and just dog in midfield. So if we're going for defensive first, then Declan Rice is my decision.
Well, I am going to refuse to have Declan Rice in this.
Refuse.
And I don't know. Others might.
I sound like a dictator there.
Oh my days!
I am on the side of I don't really see what's special about Rice. I can see the benefits that he brings, but he just doesn't excite me. And I think when we're playing against the likes of Scotland and the Czech Republic, I think if we were to put Rice out there with, say, Henderson, I just would not be inspired by it at all. So if we're talking defensive midfielders, it would definitely be Henderson for me. I just think he's much more of an engine from midfield. And we've seen for Liverpool, he can dictate it from a deep position. And we've also seen with Liverpool when he's had to drop back into centre-back, how much they've missed his influence in the middle. So I would side with Henderson. No
That's
offense, Devon. I hope I haven't upset you too much there. But
No,
I refuse.
I think Henderson's best games have come when he's had that free range role, where someone like Fabinho or Keita has been that defensive rock, and Henderson's just been free to just be that. When we talk about football in triangles, he is the point that receives it from one and passes it on to another, and then he's there again if his needs. And I think he's better as that free range 8 rather than the defensive midfielder. But I understand that in the current, you just look at the options that we've got going forward in that central position, that if you are to sacrifice Henderson for that 8, we've got better players going forward that can unlock a tight defence. So, yeah.
maybe it was silly of me to say that about Rice so early on, because we haven't heard.
I'm going to say, you talk about players that don't excite you, and then you say Henderson, and
yeah, there's more. I think there's more levels to Henderson's game. I think he can connect the defense and the attack a lot better than I think Rice can at this moment in time. I think I can remember a Nations League game. I think it was Denmark away or something, where Southgate played Rice and Dyer in midfield or something. It was one of the worst England games I've ever watched.
I mean, that's purely
0-0. Didn't create anything. We just need someone who can be that defensive destroyer almost, and Henderson can do that, and he can carry the ball forwards. He makes almost 90 passes a game in the Liverpool side, so he's comfortable on the ball. He's a midfield general.
Harry, would you be inclined to side with Henderson over Rice? Where do you stand on it?
Yeah, I think Henderson for me was the first name on the team sheet in the midfield 3. And the other one, Rice was an option. I wrote Rice down first, and then I went against it and I put someone else in instead. But if we're going, central midfielder, that's the defensive minded one, I'd definitely go Henderson, because just for all your reasons of Sam, he's a better connector. George, Liverpool have missed him so much, so that's why I put him in there.
Are we happy to go with that one, Devon? I'm sorry that we.
It looks
I attacked Rice so much.
No, I mean, I'm happy. I'd have put Henderson ahead of Rice. I just think in the 4-3-3 we're going for, I still think you need that centre midfield, a defensive midfielder that can slip into the centre half role, and the factor of putting Henderson as a central midfielder instead gives Rice the freedom to move into and protect the back 2, whilst Henderson carries on further forward. But if we did have a 3 at the back, then Rice would be straight on the bench for me. It'd be too negative then, I think, just in terms of balance.
Yeah, I think Rice is definitely going to play a part. I think Southgate clearly sees his qualities, but
he is the thing that goes unnoticed is that he is great at recycling possession, winning his headers, breaking up play. But in that West Ham side, he's just quick to get the ball, turn, and get it straight to someone like Antonio. Maybe playing with Southgate just makes him a better player naturally. But I just think he does go unnoticed quite a bit. So enough of the Muller Rice. Seeing you eating Muller Rice, George, in the house. So put respect on Rice's name.
I have now written Jordan Henderson down, so let's move on. Okay. I want your other 2 midfielders in that midfield 3 now. So however you're setting up, and we'll just make a decision as it goes. So Sam, who have you gone with as your other 2 centre mids?
Yeah, I struggled a little bit here because it's important to find a balance in midfield, but I think I'm confident in Henderson's defensive abilities that I've got 2 more attacking-minded midfielders now. I've gone with Mason Mount and James Maddison. I think most Chelsea fans will agree that Mount's been their best player by far this season, and what's been a slightly disappointing season so far, but he's definitely been their best player, and he's matured a lot. And I think he has played a bit deeper at times this season. And James Maddison, I'm a huge fan of him. A goal scorer and a creator, 6 goals, 5 assists in the Premier League this year. 25 accurate through balls, so 25 successful through balls. He's really good at unlocking the opposition defence and either popping up with a goal, getting in the right positions, or playing that killer pass. So I'm going with those two. I think you might struggle a little bit defensively playing both of those players, but I like them too much not to have them both in.
Well, this could be where it gets a bit tasty, because I won't tell you who I've got, but I haven't got either of those that Sam mentioned there. So, Devon, on to you next.
This is so difficult, right? Because now I've got to change my own 11 now, because I had Henderson as that 8. It's between, right.
You could still have Rice as one of the forward players if you really want.
Yeah, we'll do a Stephen Corker and stick him up front. This is so difficult because I really want to shoehorn James Ward-Prowse in as a number 8.
Ooh.
No,
I like your thinking.
Should we go to Harry first?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go
Harry first?
For me, I've put Mount in the same as Sam because he can. If you want to play him in a more attacking role, he can do that. But he also does contribute a lot defensively when Chelsea need that. So I think he can play in quite a versatile central midfielder. I know he's in the same position, but if you want him to do more in an attacking sense, he can, and defensively he can as well. The other one for me, sort of the top of the triangle in the three-man midfield for me, Phil Foden. I just think he's excellent. I think when we saw him play against Austria's under-23s, I know that's an under-23 game, but from that point onwards, I thought he was an absolute world beater. His first touch, dribbling, his long passes. This season he's proven it even more. I'm pretty sure he's still Manchester City's top goal scorer. 5 goals, 3 assists in the league as well. It's absolutely unbelievable. And he showed it against one of the best teams in the world of Liverpool. I know they're not the same team as they were last season, but they're still Liverpool. And I think he's a fantastic player. Yeah,
I think as you mentioned there, Harry, that goal that he scored against Liverpool at the weekend was quite something. It almost made me judder off my sofa because it was just
Mount's got 2 votes at the moment.
Yeah, Devon, are you any clearer?
Yeah. Okay. I am going to go for purely for the expansion of the England setup. I'm going in the 8 role. I'm going James Maddison, a little bit further deep.
Celebrating.
The person that's worked so hard for this and deserves to be the star boy of England's campaign. Number 10, probably a little bit deeper, Jack Grealish. I think Jack Grealish.
Those are the two that people always say you can only really. Well, some people say you should only really have one, but you would make room for both of them.
Yeah, I think Maddison can do it further deeper and can attack the right side better. But I think Grealish, especially with who I think I'm going to go with at left wing, would complement them very greatly. I think so. Stuff it. Let's have Grealish in midfield. I've got Foden elsewhere, but yeah, we've got.
We've got a really good mix here.
Maddison's got 2, Mount's got 2, and then there's Foden and Grealish on.
Well, you've just set it up nicely there, Sam. Because
the beauty of it is these players can play in a variety of different positions. So
I'm now starting to think that mine is maybe a little bit attacking. As Harry and Sam have spoken about Mason Mount, I'm kind of feeling more encouraged by him. But the 2 that I had written down before we started this were Jack Grealish and Phil Foden.
So everyone's got 2 votes.
It does. It does make
it
could be.
Well done, George.
I was kind of torn between Grealish and Maddison. I kind of think Grealish just has the edge in this system. I feel like Maddison, if we're going with a 3 in the middle, I feel like Maddison needs more of an attacking role because defensively he maybe doesn't cut it. And I know Grealish has played wide left for Villa this year, but I think we've kind of got better options out wide than him, and I think he can slot into the middle easily. And we've obviously touched on Foden as well, but I could easily slot Mount in there purely because I think he's more of a box-to-box man, and I think he's proven that with Chelsea. And as they've gone through this tough run, he has been the shining light. So I think, I could easily go
Mount in then. So
I think Mount. I think
Mount, you're on the plane.
Yeah,
you're on the either.
I do think that Mount's just been too good to not include, and it's been hard to try and get him in this system, like in a position where I think it'd benefit the whole team. I mean, Jack Grealish does get back and do the dirty work though. He's like a terrier, isn't he? He just bites at your feet, but also he draws 4.6 fouls, which will give some of the bigger lads like Harry Maguire. If he draws a foul in deep, someone like Maddison could put in a great delivery for Slabhead to just bang it in. So
we're kind of settled on Mount there. So we're going to say that Mount is in, but we've now got a decision to make on who goes there.
I have to say, spoiler alert, my pick at left wing was actually Jack Grealish. So
I think
I'm happy to move him into midfield to make sure that he's in the starting lineup, because I think he should be in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
So do we want to go with Grealish, because it's easy. It's got to be remembered as well with Foden that he has played on the left side of the front three for City, so maybe he could be.
I'm happy for Grealish to be moved into the midfield so that he starts.
Do we want to go with that? I'm nodding his head. Harry, would you be?
Yeah, we'll shoehorn him in there. That's fine by me.
The only worry that I have is that we know that Southgate just every opportunity tries to. I think Grealish has just been too good, too important to Aston Villa. The stats back him up. 3.6 key passes per game. He takes a lot of shots. He's, like I said, he's dogged, so he does get into a scrap if needed. And he suits quite a lot of roles, so you can always change it if you wanted to be a bit more defensive minded. You could put him on the left and have someone like Chilwell overlapping him, like a bit like what Target's done this season. So there's just so much versatility with this side that I think he'd probably most fit in that 10 role and kind of having a free role just to do what he wants, like he does at Villa sometimes. So yeah,
I think I've been particularly impressed with Grealish this year in that Villa strengthened their side so much and have improved so much, but he is still the main man. Like he still dictates everything for them. So
it's probably helped that the onus is not. Last season they were just giving him the ball and going, "Come on, Grealish, do something." Whereas this season the importance is off him and he's flourished now. The weight's been lifted off.
Yeah, you're right. So there we go. We've gone with Henderson, Mount, and Grealish there, but I reckon some of those players we mentioned could still come up as we move into the front three. Just before we do that, Harry, there was no real mention of Ward-Prowse there, but are you hopeful that he'll be included in the squad?
I'm not sure. I think although he was the captain for Gareth Southgate for the under 23s, I think players like Phillips, Rice, even Winks, I think are ahead of him. Whether I agree with that or not is a different story whatsoever. But
I would like to see Ward-Prowse in the squad. I think how good he is from dead ball situations. I think late in the game we need a goal. Bring Ward-Prowse on. He's going to put, when we get set pieces, he's going to put the ball in the right areas for the likes of Maguire and players like that to get their head on it. So
my only concern with that is that if someone like Trent is on the pitch, I'm scared that status. I know it's the tactic, but my concern is status will go. Trent will go. I'm not saying it's because it's Trent. I'm just saying because the whole team thinks it's Trent. They'll go, no, he's been in the squad longer. He's got that level of status to go, no, this is my free kick. Even though, and we've seen it proven that Ward-Prowse is by far, in my opinion, I think the stats prove it, the best free kick taker in the league.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, Harry. But it's interesting to see if it makes it ahead of Winks and Rice, like you said. I think Rice will probably be a shoe-in for the squad. Moving on then to the front three. So we're going to go with the wide men left. So give me your right winger and your left winger, and let's see how similar we are. I'll start with Dev.
I am going for the City men. I think Phil Foden on the right and Raheem Sterling on the left could cause a lot of problems, considering the players that we've got around him.
Sterling on the left.
Yeah, I think Sterling just looks. I like Sterling, and I think, considering if we are having Luke Shaw at left back and Trent at right back, having Foden at right wing allows Foden to come further inwards and have Trent overlapping, whereas Shaw would be the person threading Sterling through. I think it's just so hard to leave Jadon Sancho out as well, but he's just underperformed this season. And I think Phil Foden, especially with, he's got 4 successful dribbles per game, 2.5 key shots, nearly 90% success rate, pass succession rate as well, which is just gifted. And I think can't leave Foden out. So I think he's better attacking this with Trent coming behind him.
Harry, have you got either of those two in your team?
For me, I think Sancho and Sterling. Sterling, 8 goals and 4 assists, not as prolific as a lot of seasons, but still a fantastic player. And Sancho, the previous 2 seasons, he's had double goals and double assists. I know he's dropped off a bit this season, 3 goals, 7 assists in the league, but I still think Sancho, another phenomenal footballer. But I'd happily see Foden in there. But for me, Sterling and Sancho on the wings.
Sam, any kind of differential?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Grealish was my first pick at left wing, but my second pick at left wing was actually Marcus Rashford, who I think's performed a lot better on the left this season for Manchester United than he has on the right. Obviously, they've had their frustrations with him in some games, like he switches off at some points, but 8 goals, 6 assists in the Premier League, still a great return for a winger, and I think he's a brilliant player. I've actually gone with Sterling on the right over Sancho. I think he's got more caliber as an England player at this point, more experience as an England player. Although I really like Sancho, he's not quite had his best season, although he's got 3 goals, 9 assists in the Bundesliga. This year, he's not quite reached the heights that he did last season. I think maybe that not getting the moves that he wanted has affected him a little bit. So I think I'll go with Sterling over him on the right. So Rashford on the left, Sterling on the right for me.
I've actually gone with exactly the same pairing, Sam. Sterling and Rashford, and kind of for the same reasons, really. I think in the rare games where Bruno Fernandes maybe isn't up to his usual standards, I feel like Rashford has been there to cover it over this year. He's scored a lot of important goals. And as for Sterling, City have gone the whole season without Aguero there, and it kind of just proves how highly Pep Guardiola rates him when he's left Gabriel Jesus on the bench on Sunday, and he's gone with Sterling. I know that City's system is kind of, they don't really play a striker. Him and Foden kind of rotate, but I think Sterling, given his background in this England team, I would struggle not to find a place for him in this 11. So that would be my 2. In terms of Sancho, I kind of don't really watch enough of the Bundesliga to be able to judge him. But you'll know more about him than I will. So it's gonna be tough. How do we decide this one?
I don't know.
I think all 4 of us have picked Sterling, so I think he's
Sterling's in then.
Sterling's there, but
I just think it just depends. Yeah, the thing is that if we have Sterling on the right, I think there's only Marcus Rashford that can really play on the left from the names mentioned. But I just think Phil Foden, if maybe, I don't know. I think Foden quite effective once he'd switched with Sterling and became more of a inverted winger. And I mean, it's hard to disagree with Sancho because last season he did score 17 goals, 16 assists, which is an incredible contribution. Yeah.
This just proves the dilemma that Gareth Southgate's going to have.
At least he can. At least he has his headache at night and think, "Oh God, I'm getting paid to make this decision," rather than us having this headache and not doing anything. But
so we think.
Who's your pick, Harry? Again.
My other pick was Sancho, but I think because
Yeah,
two people said Rashford, and I'd happily see Rashford because I know he's had a slight dip recently, but still been a great season. And
I may be
I'd
getting
happily
this
have.
wrong, but I may be getting it wrong. But I think he's been better on the left. I might be getting it the wrong way round, and United fans will be screaming at me saying he's better on the right. But
For me, there's also a small thing that if we need to go another man up front, we could easily just sort of push in there and bring someone else on the left. I think his versatility in the starting 11 as well means that he's good. He can come off the left, he can go outside, he can sort of do almost anything coming off the left as well.
I just feel like you look at the style we play as an England setup. You'd love to have Sancho and Rashford just driving forward at pace on a counter, but I think with the striker, that's probably going to be inevitably Harry Kane, not Harry Maguire. Harry Kane.
Situations.
Maybe if you have Harry Kane, you probably want someone like Sterling playing off him and more of a ball player in Foden. That's just my opinion, rather than having. It's strange because you think about the problem with putting Foden in as well is that then limits Grealish and Mounts. Because I think Foden will naturally try and drop into them positions anyway. So, yeah, I'm just going to...
I remember that Nations League game against Spain where Sterling, Kane and Rashford linked up really well. And I think that they showed a lot of potential of being a great forward line, especially with Kane. Obviously, we'll talk more about Kane in a bit. But
well, who knows if it is going to be Kane?
We all know Jordan Rhodes is coming into some form now, so
this is really hard, but I think it is the time now that we do come to some sort of decision.
I think it's Rashford by the looks of it. I'm not trying to.
I feel like I really like Foden, and I think there is reason to have him in there, but I also think Harry's point about Rashford's versatility, I don't know, it's a real headache, isn't it?
I don't know. Rashford, if you think though, Rashford has some excellent performances, but he has an equally amount of performances where he just goes missing or he'll overrun stuff. And I don't know, I think Sterling's the obvious in this. Can we agree that? I think.
Yeah, we're already set on that.
Yeah.
You go to our striker and come back to it.
Yeah, well, we've already mentioned that. I think that's a good idea, Sam.
Should we do a normal
a bit easier
Southgate and shove a right back on right wing? Should we just get every right back in possible?
Making 11 of right backs, I think.
So our main striker will, of course, be Tammy Abraham. No, we've mentioned him numerous times in the last 5 minutes. Harry Kane, of course. I think, can anyone make a case for anyone else being the starting striker?
I wrote some more names down.
Yeah. I mean, say if Harry Kane isn't fit, who are you playing down the centre? Because Sam's made a list here, so we need to accommodate this list. So I think everyone knows Harry Kane as the captain is the main player. But if he's injured, who would you go for instead?
Just said Danny Ings. We know. I can see it. I can see you just shaking to get his name out.
I wouldn't actually. As much as I'd love to.
Danny Ings is on my Word document.
My problem is he's just not on form at the moment. I think he's lost confidence. I think the paper talk has slightly affected him, and I think 7 goals is still an okay return, but there's 6, 7, 8, 9 players, English players above him in the England top goal scorer list. So it's not for me.
Yeah,
the two I've got written down as my ideal backups would be Calvert-Lewin and it would be Ings, Harry. I think he would suit the system fairly well. But there's a few options. Anyone else want to throw someone in there?
I had Callum Wilson down as well, who's
Oh,
done well in a Newcastle team that don't create much at all.
Mhm.
He's still come up with 10 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League. So he was in there for me. Go on, Harry.
So my only thing is, when I look at sort of the way Gareth Southgate does things, a lot of the time he'll bring someone into the squad, they'll be there for a bit, but when they come out of the squad, you don't see them again. And because Wilson's been in the squad and now he's left the squad, I think it will take him long to get back in. As much as I agree, I think he's a great player. I'm not too sure whether, for me, as much as I criticise him, I do think Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be that backup. 8 goals within the 6-yard box. I think that can be seen both ways. Both is a poacher. He knows where the goal is. He can get goals, but the problem is he doesn't always create a lot of chances for himself. He's not someone that could just, for me anyway, he's not someone that can just pick up the ball, get on his right foot, and put it into the top corner. So I think being that poacher-esque player can have its pros and cons, but he is the sort of stature that he can hold the ball up, he can bring into play, he can get on the end of crosses, he can do almost anything. So for me, as much as it pains me to say, I think Calvert-Lewin's that man.
He has got the most similar game to Kane, I think. I think he's not quite got the passing range or creativity of Kane, but he's got that stature. He's a big lad, and he knows how to hold up the ball. Over 50% of his shots are on target. He's always challenging the goalkeeper. He's always a menace, challenging the defenders, like I said, with his physicality. So he'd probably be my number one backup as well, but Kane's obviously the main man.
Tammy Abraham as well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I didn't have Tammy down. I've got a surprise inclusion for Ollie Watkins. Because he can play wide if needed. He'd be a good partner, I think, playing off of Kane if Kane was there and we decided to have 2 up front. And I think perfect opportunity for Grealish to show why him and Ollie Watkins have partnered each other so well in this Villa side. But is there a case for Patrick Bamford? Because he's got
the goals,
goal involvements. He's the 3rd best shot taker in the league behind Kane, and I think it's Mo Salah. But we've seen Bamford numerous times. I think he'd flourish in a Bielsa system, and that's why he's done so well this season. But completely, because he's not going to see the ball as much, I don't think, in an England side, necessarily in the positions he wants it. I think it'd be too much of an ask to get him to, change his style again.
I think that Bamford is rightly in the discussion because of the goals he's scored, but I also wouldn't take him purely because he's not going to get the chances that he gets at Leeds in a Euros, because Kane is going to start every game, and if we're going to bring someone off the bench, we need someone who's going to be clinical and he's going to take one of their, I don't know, how many chances do you get off the bench? 2 or 3 at most?
It always feels like the games are tight, no matter who you're playing. Tournaments.
I mean,
I think his conversion rate this year is significantly lower than some of the other players on the Golden Boot list. So that would be what would put me off.
Yeah. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin ticks all the boxes in terms of Harry Kane's replacement, and he adds a bit more pace, and I do think he's stronger, and he's probably better as an independent striker, because Kane drops a lot, which allows the right winger and the left winger to become more important going forward, and that's probably where Raheem Sterling comes in and is the more important of them 2 wingers. But I think Calvert-Lewin as a number 9 would suit that better in terms of being on that front line, on the defender's toes, rather than with his back to goal. So it just depends on the dynamism of when. I don't think we're going to lose Harry Kane. He seems
Kane there, aren't we? We've talked more about his replacements than Kane himself.
He's a captain at the day. He's going to start.
Yeah, he's the first name on the team. If you look at any of this 11, the first player on the team sheet is Kane.
Yeah, former Norwich striker Harry Kane is.
That's what he's known for.
And former Norwich striker Patrick Bamford in his
career, really.
Well, but Bamford as well, of course. Yeah. So
does that mean Gary Hooper's going to get a late call up as well?
Say again.
Does that mean Gary Hooper's going to get a late call up?
Maybe. We obviously haven't haven't mentioned Vardy either, but I think he's kind of made his intention clear that
Tired.
he's
Things
retired.
would be so much easier if we had Vardy.
I don't think he'd want to play second fiddle though, would he? And I think maybe understandably given his age. But yeah, Kane is obviously in the team and he's probably going to be the captain as well. But we go back now to our final spot. We need to make a decision. I think it's between Rashford and Foden. I'm going to just about go for Rashford. Let's just hear one name. Sam, what do you say?
Rashford's my pick. I'll back him.
I think, Devon, you're thinking Foden.
Foden's just too good. Like, I mean, it
I think
depends
we
on
need a bit more from him.
yeah.
Like, he's still very young, and he's not.
Yeah.
If he goes the rest of the season doing what he did against Liverpool, then fair enough. He probably does get in the starting 11. But at this point right now, it's Rashford for me.
Harry, what about you?
I want to say Foden so badly, but at the moment I'd probably have to say Rashford. But give it the rest of the season, like Sam said, if Foden plays at that level, I think if Foden gets 90 minutes every game to the end of the season, or every other game at least, because you know how Pep's system's like, and he plays at the same level, I'd say Foden. But for me at the moment, it's got to be Rashford.
There we go. Then it sounds as if Rashford is our man, and that means that the 11 is complete. And I will go through that for you now. I have it written down on this notepad, and it is as follows: Nick Pope between the sticks. That was an easy call. The back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold, John Stones, Harry Maguire, and Luke Shaw. A midfield three of Jordan Henderson, Mason Mount, and Jack Grealish, and a front three of Raheem Sterling, we think, is going to be on our right-hand side. Marcus Rashford on the left. That was probably the hardest call of the lot, although there were a few difficult ones. And then the easiest one of the lot, Harry Kane in the middle. And there's just over 4 months until the tournament is due to start. We've mentioned there so often, if certain players can pick their form up, then they'd be in. So this could be completely different by the time June comes around, but this is what we are at the moment. But most importantly, we want you to let us know where we went wrong with this. So get in the comments, get on Twitter, tell us what we did so wrong. Tell us that Devon was right with Foden and that me, Sam, and Harry are just totally deluded with Rashford.
Why we haven't even mentioned Danny Welbeck
or Andy Carroll.
or Antonimi. Why is Antonimi not in this discussion?
We'd like to see as well what your 11 would be if you had to choose right now. It would be good to see a few comments down there just to see what people are thinking. But there we go. That is our 11. I think we've been speaking for just over an hour, so it's been an interesting discussion, but an enjoyable one as well. It was an enjoyable one to plan and a good one to actually put into practice as well. Before we go, though, we are going to do another round of the quiz. And Sam,
I was worried then.
Prepared one. I think it's got an England theme. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, it has to be.
So, we've not even touched the subject yet, have we?
When you're ready, Sam, take it away.
Oh, no, he's fell asleep.
Write down the names on my notepad. Tally up.
Okay, all ready.
A nice mix of random questions about England. So here we go. Number 1. What was the last year that England failed to qualify for the World Cup?
Ooh, that's tough. Oh, goodness me. I think I know it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've got an answer for that one.
All right.
I think that's right. Yeah, it's got to be.
I'm going to make myself look like an absolute mug here. There we go. Because I know I'm going to name a tournament, and when I put it up, one of you are going to go, no, because that's when this happened, and I'm going to go.
Well, that's the Euros year.
Yeah, I've written down the years like on the top right of my sheet, so I make sure I have chosen a World Cup year rather than, or now my maths is completely wrong. We'll see.
Go on, Sam.
When England didn't have a national stadium between 2001 and 2007, which stadium hosted the most games for the national side, most home games?
Dun, 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 dun.
Seems like an easier one. I think.
Don't say that.
Oh, he
Do
said
not
that.
say
I said
that.
it seemed because you were quicker to write down there.
Oh, right.
fair
Yeah,
enough,
there's-
fair enough.
I mean, Blundell Park does have a McDonald's outside it.
Go on, Sam. Number 3.
Hello, turf, that is. Number 3, England finished.
Hello.
What?
Go on. Sorry.
England finished bottom of their group at the 2014 World Cup. Who finished top?
Oh.
Oh no. There's another.
I feel quite confident on that as well.
Was that?
That's dangerous. I should not have said that. I should have just kept my mouth shut.
I did that on many occasions in the last season. It backfired. But...
Can we do it, man? Harry, USA. Click MC, remember?
Right, number
Should be
4.
trying to trick George. He's the one in front.
George, USA.
Go on, Sam.
You might have to think about this one. This is a tough
Oh,
one.
God, I've got no chance then.
Who is the only England player to have ever played for England, having never lived in the United Kingdom at the time of their debut?
Flipping heck. No.
Oh, God, right. Say that again, Sam.
I can't even think.
When this player made their debut for England, they'd never lived in the United Kingdom.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
they're the only player to do it.
Flipping heck.
It's post 2000. I can say that.
Oh, there was one name coming to my head there, but I'm pretty sure he's before 2000.
I can't think of anyone.
Or is he? Would it have been after it? I'm worried I'll kick. We'll go with this guy. Although I don't think
He's not like one of them one cap wonders. I'm pretty sure he's had a few games for England. But...
Oh,
If it's
any easier.
the man who I was thinking, I'm going to be livid with myself. But
Oh my God, I can't think already.
I'm ready, Sam.
So
Alright.
just before you move on, so it's a player that made his debut for England, living elsewhere.
when they made their debut, they'd never lived in the United Kingdom.
Ever. So they would have came to a youth academy that wasn't in the UK. They would have played. They would have made themselves. Not on the.
They wouldn't have played in England.
Was it a kid? No. I'm just.
Oh, is he? No, is he not? I don't know. What's it? I can't even remember if he's English or not.
I'm definitely. I'm
I'm going to do
definitely.
the
Right,
last question.
And you are.
Can you name the last 3 players to score on their England debut?
Ooh.
The last 3. The 3 latest debutant scorers.
No, that was after.
I've got 2, I think.
I've just wrote 3 random names and I've spelt it wrong. That's well done,
Oh,
David.
but did he score on his debut? Or did he play before that?
Ah,
I want to go for it.
I think we might be thinking of the same player, Harry.
Oh,
No, we're just gonna.
I'm worried he plays an away fixture before and then he played at home.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Is there 3 points for that last question, Sam?
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
3 points per answer or 1 point for each?
why have I done that? Why have you done that, Devon?
one for each.
I've done it.
Go on, Sam.
Okay, time for the answers. Question number 1. What was the last year that England failed to qualify for the World Cup, George?
1994.
94.
Oh, maybe it was.
Not 94, clearly.
Sorry, I didn't know you'd ask me. Cut out. I went just because we'd won a World Cup the year after. Too much celebrations in 17. We didn't get through. Just
Harry?
yeah.
I put 2002. I wasn't sure at all.
2002. There's one of you correct. And
By
it's,
Anne-Marie.
it's the current leader of the quiz.
Yeah.
For goodness sake.
Four.
Excellent.
Must be something about fours, because obviously 2004. Did we not? Oh, wait, hold on. No, 2008.
All right.
Oh,
Come back.
it is a multiple of 4, I guess.
I can't remember. One of the years.
Good, Sam.
Okay, question number 2. When England didn't have a national stadium between 2001 and 2007, which stadium hosted the most home games? Harry?
I put Old Trafford.
Old Trafford. Theatre of Dreams. Devon?
I've also gone for the Old Trafford because of the amount of soccer aid games we've had there. So.
And George?
Yeah, Old
It's
Trafford.
gone Old Trafford. And you're all correct. It was Old Trafford.
I was tempted with Millennium Stadium just because that's where the playoff finals were held, weren't they?
And the fact that it's in Wales.
Yeah,
Big cup.
No. Oh, George.
It's in Wales. That is correct. So wouldn't really be a home game, would it?
I mean,
I've never heard of
you
pit
tell
like
that
ground sharing in international football. That is quite the thought.
No, I'm just all right. Just FA Cup finals and stuff were at
Anyway.
Millennium Stadium, so I'm
Yeah.
just
Go on, Sam.
All right, Devon. England finished bottom of their group at the 2014 World Cup. Who finished top?
But was it?
On Devon.
oh,
It's gone.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. George. Who you got?
Yeah, I think Devon's right with Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
I put Uruguay. Costa Rica was in my thoughts, but I put Uruguay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Uruguay should have been your answer, Harry. It was. I mean, Costa Rica. Sorry, Costa Rica should have been your answer.
For goodness sake, I'm having an awful
Yeah,
time.
right.
Thinking the starting 11's really drained us this episode, hasn't it?
Okay, well, it's been a long one, but it's been a good one too. Sam, number 4, let's hear it.
Who's the only England player to ever played for England, having never lived in the United Kingdom at the time of their debut? We'll go Harry first.
I said I wasn't sure, so I went Steve McManaman. I really
Steve
wasn't
McManaman.
sure.
George, what you got?
I was thinking maybe Matt Letizia because I know he's from Guernsey, so I thought does that count?
Is he?
I pulled out when you said post 2000. I've got hard.
That was my other thought.
Oh, what you got?
Yeah, I went for George's lookalike, Owen Hargreaves.
Yeah, George is perfect still so far. It's Hargreaves.
I'm having an absolutely awful time here.
The quiz leader's on fire.
Okay, I think this last one's tough. I'm pretty sure I haven't got 3, but
Okay, can you name the last 3 players to score on their England debut? We'll go to you first, George. Oh.
Okay, so I've got Callum Wilson, Dominic Lewin, and I've got Harry Kane because I couldn't really think of the third one.
Okay.
I know Kane scored on his debut, but it was a fair while ago, wasn't it?
Devon, what you got?
I've gone Marcus Rashford, Mason Mount, and crossed out Jadon Sancho for Jamie Vardy for the laugh.
Right.
I can't remember.
Harry.
I was the same as George for one of them, or 2 of them, sorry. Where's my answers? There. I said Kane, Calvert-Lewin, and Connor Cody, because I couldn't remember if he had an appearance before that or not.
Cody was in my thoughts, Harry. That was the player who you were thinking.
Yeah.
Was it on his debut? Was it not?
Yeah.
So the answers are Calvert-Lewin, Callum Wilson, and Marcus Rashford.
Oh.
Still just got the one. That's annoying.
Okay.
George got 2, right? And then
I think
Devon got Rashford, and Harry got Calvert-Lewin.
I'm fairly happy with that. I think I've ended up with 6 on that. So.
Yeah, I've ended up with 6.
I've had an absolutely awful
I'll take 4.
Absolutely awful.
Well,
I got 2.
Again. I'll just tally these up.
Yeah, that's it. Let's give us a running total.
George, while you tally them up, remind us, where can we find the Fourmation Podcast?
I thought you'd have it written on your notepad and up against the screen by now, Dev. But on Twitter, we are at _Fourmation, and on Facebook, we are just the Fourmation. Sam, have you got those tallies ready?
Yes. Built up a bit of a gap, George. You got 23. Devon is 4 away with 19, and Harry's got 15.
That's not good. That's not good at all.
It's still not massively open. It's a nice lead, but
I might have to do a Southampton and Sheffield Wednesday.
to pull it back.
Because that makes it.
Wait,
that makes it
does that
even
mean I'm
worse if
going to
I
be
don't
below
win
Harry
that
after getting -6 my account? So no.
Yeah, do that, Sam. Pile the pressure on. But yeah, that's the end of this week's episode with the quiz finishing. That is all that we've got time for. It's been a bit of a longer one this week, but we hope you've enjoyed it. As we said, it's a bit topical at the moment, the England discussion. But we are really keen for you to let us know what you thought of this video, but also what you are thinking in terms of your England 11. We've given you the platforms at the _Fourmation on Twitter. I'll say it again. And obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, then let us know in the comments below. And you can suggest other discussion points for us to do, and we will try and include them again. But as for this week, that's it.
Thanks,
and we'll
Connor,
see you
for the
next
suggestion.
week. Thanks a lot.
Don't thank Connor. It's coming over.